pain you feel in your finger isn't even happening there. It's all constructed in your brain. Let me show you how your brain and body team up to create the sensation of pain, starting with what happens the moment you swallow that pill. The great stomach acid showdown. Your ibuprofen just took the plunge down your throat, and now it's about to face what might be the most hostile environment in your body. Your stomach acid is incredibly acidic, which puts it in territory where most things get completely obliterated within minutes. But here's where things get interesting. That pill isn't just sitting there hoping for the best. Pharmaceutical companies in 2025 have turned stomach survival into an art form. They've developed these incredibly sophisticated coating systems that make pills way more resilient than the basic tablets your grandparents used to take. Some of these new formulations can actually control exactly when and where they start breaking down, almost like they have tiny molecular timers built right into them. Modern ibuprofen tablets now dissolve in your stomach in about 15 to 30 minutes, but that timing isn't random. It's precisely engineered. The 2025 research shows that newer formulations have improved this process so much that bioavailability rates have jumped from around 80% to over 95% for most major painkillers. That means way more of your pill actually makes it to where it needs to go, instead of getting wasted along the way. The really clever part is something called enteric coating. This is basically a protective shell that completely ignores your stomach acid but dissolves when it reaches the higher pH environment of your small intestine, delaying absorption until past the stomach. It's like the pill is wearing a hazmat suit that only comes off when it reaches safer territory. These coatings didn't even exist in older painkillers, which is why people used to get so many stomach problems from taking too many pain pills. Then you have time-release mechanisms that are even more sophisticated. These pills contain tiny pellets with different coating thicknesses, so they dissolve at different rates over several hours. Some pellets dissolve immediately, others wait 2 hours, others wait 4 hours. It's like having multiple pills inside one pill, each one launching at exactly the right moment to keep your pain relief steady throughout the day. But here's the part that seems completely backwards. Your stomach acid isn't actually trying to destroy your painkiller. All that dissolution and chemical breakdown is absolutely necessary for the pill to work. The active ingredient needs to escape from its tablet prison and become individual molecules floating around in your stomach juices. Solid pill can't do anything useful. It needs to be chemically dismantled before it can start its real job. The 2025 absorption data shows just how much this matters. Pills that dissolve faster don't necessarily work better, and pills that dissolve slower don't necessarily work worse. It's all about timing and location. The goal is to get maximum dissolution at exactly the right spot in your digestive system where absorption happens most efficiently. Your stomach is basically performing controlled demolition on that pill. The acid breaks down the binding agents that hold the tablet together, and the churning action grinds everything into smaller and smaller pieces. Within about 20 minutes, what used to be a solid pill is now thousands of microscopic particles suspended in your stomach contents. But not everything dissolves at the same rate. Different parts of the pill have different chemical structures, so they break down according to their own individual schedules. The active painkiller ingredient might dissolve first, followed by the binding agents, then the coating materials, then the coloring agents. It's like watching a carefully choreographed chemical dance where each component has its own entrance and exit timing. Modern pill design takes advantage of this process by creating tablets with specific hardness levels and breaking points. Too hard and the pill won't dissolve fast enough. Too soft and it might break down before it even reaches your stomach. The 2025 formulations hit that sweet spot where the tablet is strong enough to survive manufacturing and packaging, but weak enough to surrender quickly to your stomach's chemical assault. What's really fascinating is that different types of painkillers have completely different dissolution strategies. Aspirin dissolves almost immediately because it needs to get to work fast. Extended release formulations can take hours to fully dissolve because they're designed to provide long-lasting relief. Enteric-coated pills don't dissolve at all in your stomach, saving themselves for the small intestine environment. The byproducts of this dissolution process aren't just random debris either. Everything that comes out of a dissolving pill serves a specific purpose. Some components are designed to enhance absorption, others control the release rate, and others protect the active ingredient from being damaged by stomach acid. It's like the pill is a tiny factory that only starts operating once it gets attacked by your digestive system. But here's where the real mystery begins. Once your stomach has finished demolishing that pill and turning it into a soup of dissolved molecules and microscopic particles, All that material has to find its way through a very specific gateway to continue the journey. Your stomach is essentially a holding tank with only one exit, and that gateway has its own set of rules about what gets to pass through and what gets left behind. Highway to the bloodstream. That gateway leads to your small intestine, where the real molecular selection process begins. Your small intestine isn't just some passive tube that lets everything through. It's actually one of the most selective bouncers in your entire body, and it has very specific rules about what gets to pass and what gets rejected. The wall of your small intestine is covered in these tiny finger-like projections called villi, and each villus is covered in even tinier projections called microvilli. All that surface area exists for one reason, to give your body maximum opportunity to absorb the stuff it needs while filtering out the stuff it doesn't want. But absorption isn't just about surface area. Your intestinal wall contains hundreds of different transport proteins, and these proteins are like highly specialized gatekeepers. Each type of transport protein only recognizes specific molecular shapes, kind of like locks that only work with certain keys. The 2025 research has identified over 400 different transport proteins in the human small intestine, and we're still discovering new ones. Some of these proteins actively grab onto drug molecules and pull them through the intestinal wall, while others act as barriers to keep certain molecules out. What makes this even more interesting is that different painkillers use completely different strategies to get through this intestinal security system. Ibuprofen molecules are just the right size and shape to slip through passive diffusion pathways, meaning they don't need any special transport proteins to help them. They just squeeze through tiny gaps between cells like molecular ninjas. But other painkillers need active transport, where specific proteins have to physically carry them across the intestinal barrier. The selectivity process is brutal. Studies from 2025 show that only about 60 to 80% of dissolved painkiller molecules actually make it through the intestinal wall. The rest get either broken down by intestinal enzymes or swept away by the constant flow of digestive juices moving through your gut. It's like a molecular obstacle course where most participants get eliminated before they even reach the finish line. Once those lucky molecules do make it through the intestinal wall, they don't go directly into your general bloodstream. Instead, they get collected by a specialized blood vessel system called the portal circulation. This is basically a private highway that carries everything absorbed from your intestines directly to your liver before it goes anywhere else in your body. Your liver gets first dibs on everything you absorb, which sounds helpful until you realize that your liver's job is to break down and eliminate foreign substances. Your liver contains the highest concentration of drug metabolizing enzymes in your entire body. These enzymes have names like cytochrome P450, and they're essentially molecular shredding machines designed to tear apart foreign chemicals. When painkiller molecules arrive at your liver, they face what's called first-pass metabolism. This is where your liver immediately starts breaking down a portion of the drug before it ever gets a chance to reach the rest of your body. The numbers on first-pass metabolism vary dramatically between different painkillers. For some drugs, your liver destroys up to 70% of the absorbed medication during this first encounter. But ibuprofen is actually pretty good at surviving this process, maintaining about 95% bioavailability. That means if 100 milligrams of ibuprofen made it through your intestinal wall, about 95 milligrams will survive the liver's initial screening process. This is why pharmaceutical companies have to account for liver metabolism when they design pill dosages. They're not just calculating how much drug you need for pain relief. They're calculating how much you need to compensate for what your liver is going to eliminate. But your liver isn't just randomly destroying painkiller molecules. It's actually performing quality control. The liver breaks down drugs into metabolites, and some of these metabolites are actually more active than the original drug. Other metabolites are designed to be easily eliminated by your kidneys. Your liver is basically a chemical processing plant that converts the raw materials from your pill into the specific molecular products your body can safely handle and effectively eliminate. After surviving the liver screening process, whatever remains of your dissolved painkiller finally enters what's called systemic circulation. This is the main highway system of your bloodstream that connects to every organ and tissue in your body. Your heart pumps about 5 liters of blood through this system every minute, creating a circulation loop that can carry molecules throughout your entire body. But even reaching systemic circulation doesn't guarantee success. Your bloodstream contains proteins that can bind to drug molecules and essentially put them in temporary storage. A significant portion of painkiller molecules in your blood are bound to these proteins at any given time, which means they're circulating through your body, but they're not actually available to do anything useful. Only the unbound molecules can exit your bloodstream and interact with tissues where pain is actually happening. The whole process from intestinal absorption to systemic circulation takes about 30 to 45 minutes for most modern painkillers. That timing has improved significantly since 2025 because of better understanding of transport proteins and metabolic pathways. Pharmaceutical companies now design pills specifically to optimize each step of this journey, from intestinal absorption rates to liver metabolism patterns. What's really mind-blowing is that this entire absorption and distribution system happens automatically every time you swallow any pill. Your body doesn't know whether you're taking a painkiller, a vitamin, or a completely inert sugar pill. It just follows the same molecular highway system regardless of what you've consumed. The selectivity happens at the molecular level based on chemical properties, not based on what you intended the pill to accomplish. Your bloodstream has become a molecular highway system with multiple lanes, checkpoints, and quality control stations. The molecules that do make it through this gauntlet are now circulating throughout your entire body. But here's where something really strange starts to happen. The everywhere problem. Your bloodstream is now carrying these molecules to literally every single part of your body. Your toes, your earlobes, your kidneys, your brain, everywhere. But wait, if I smash my thumb with a hammer, why is the painkiller going to my spleen? This seems like the most inefficient delivery system ever invented. This is the part that makes painkillers seem like magic because logically it makes no sense. You take one pill for a headache, and that same pill is simultaneously visiting your liver, your muscles, your bones, and about 37 trillion other cells that have absolutely nothing to do with your headache. It's like calling for pizza delivery and having the delivery guy stop at every single house in your neighborhood before finally reaching yours. But your cardiovascular system doesn't have any kind of GPS functionality. Blood just flows where blood flows, following the same circulatory routes it always follows, regardless of where you happen to be experiencing pain. Your heart doesn't pump harder toward injured areas, and your blood vessels don't create special express lanes for painkiller molecules heading to specific destinations. Once in your blood, the drug travels everywhere equally, reaching both injury sites and non-injured tissues. This systemic distribution is actually more sophisticated than it seems. What determines where these molecules end up first isn't your pain location, it's your blood flow patterns. Organs with the highest blood flow get the highest concentrations of painkiller molecules the fastest. Your brain, heart, liver, and kidneys see peak drug concentrations within the first 30 minutes simply because they receive the most blood per minute. Meanwhile, tissues with lower blood flow like cartilage, tendons, and bone take hours to reach peak drug concentrations. This creates a really interesting paradox. The places where you most commonly experience pain, like joints and muscles, are often the places that receive painkiller molecules last and in the lowest concentrations. Your knee cartilage has relatively poor blood supply, so it might take 2 to 3 hours for painkiller concentrations to peak there. But your brain, which processes the pain signals from your knee, gets flooded with painkiller molecules within the first few minutes. The tissue concentration data from 2025 studies reveals some surprising numbers. In highly vascularized organs, painkiller concentrations can reach 10 to 15 times higher than the average blood concentration. But in poorly vascularized tissues, concentrations might only reach 10 to 20% of blood levels. So the drug isn't distributed evenly throughout your body at all. It's more like a flood that hits some areas with tsunami-level concentrations while barely trickling into others. But here's the thing that makes this seemingly wasteful system actually brilliant. Different tissues have different barriers to drug penetration, and the everywhere approach compensates for these barriers by providing multiple pathways for the drug to reach its targets. Your blood-brain barrier normally keeps most chemicals out of your brain, but the everywhere approach means painkiller molecules are constantly encountering this barrier from multiple directions, and eventually some of them get through. What's really fascinating is that the everywhere distribution isn't actually wasteful at all when you understand what's happening at the molecular level. Pain isn't just happening at the injury site. It's happening throughout your entire nervous system, from the peripheral nerves at the injury location all the way up to the pain processing centers in your brain. The everywhere approach ensures that painkiller molecules are available to interrupt pain signals at every point along this pathway. The mechanism behind pain relief isn't about the painkiller finding your injury and fixing it. It's about the painkiller being available wherever pain signals are being generated, transmitted, or processed. Pain signals travel through peripheral nerves, up your spinal cord, and into multiple brain regions. The everywhere approach stations painkiller molecules at every stop along this journey, ready to interfere with pain signal transmission wherever it's happening. Recent 2025 data on pain pathway research shows that effective pain relief requires drug action at multiple sites simultaneously. Blocking pain signals at just the injury site provides minimal relief because the pain amplification happens throughout the nervous system. But having painkiller molecules distributed everywhere means they can block pain signals in peripheral nerves, spinal cord relay stations, and brain processing centers all at the same time. This creates a compound effect where the pain relief is much greater than what you'd get from targeting any single location. It's like having a security system with cameras and alarms at every possible entry point instead of just monitoring the front door. Most attempts to break in get stopped at multiple checkpoints, making the overall system much more effective than any single point of protection. The distribution kinetics also work in your favor, in ways that aren't immediately obvious. As painkiller molecules get metabolized and eliminated from highly vascularized organs, the drug concentrations in poorly vascularized tissues are still building up. This creates a sustained release effect where pain relief continues even as blood drug levels are declining. Your circulatory system essentially becomes a molecular distribution network with millions of delivery points operating simultaneously. Each blood vessel, each capillary bed, each tissue interface becomes a potential site where only free drug molecules can leave blood vessels and reach tissue receptors. The everywhere approach turns your entire cardiovascular system into a massive parallel processing pain relief operation.